I guess that, yeah, I guess I should say why I'm like qualified to talk about this. And I'm not necessarily, but I work in advertising, and I started in doing social media, paid social media campaigns, and so in that sense, I have a little bit of social media background, and then I also, for my free time or hobbies, I have a couple of net labels, if you will, and so I've just kind of learned kind of from hitting the ground and starting those labels, how to create an organic social presence, and these platforms have been really beneficial to me, and so yeah, Reed asked me to come down and talk about this, and I really like balanced breakfast, so yeah, cool. Well, I have some notes, so I'm gonna pull them out, but yeah, I'll probably just start by talking about Facebook presence for a band, and I studied marketing at the business school at CSU, and I think any other marketing major will tell you that a lot of the things you learn seem like weird, like common sense sort of a thing. You're like, well, yeah, of course, like that makes sense when you hear about these things, and that's how I feel about social media as well, especially for maybe my generation. Some of it is sort of second nature or common knowledge, and so there might be some stuff that I say today that is like, yeah, of course, like I get it, but either way, I'm going to start with something that's like total no-brainer. But yeah, if you're going to be building a Facebook presence with your band, one of the first things that I always say is you want to ensure that all of the information on your page is like updated and filled in. And that means like stupid stuff like your band description and like location and all that kind of stuff, and that's just kind of like basic common knowledge, but it's really helpful for your like SEO and paid or organic search. So if you want to come up in Google searches, it's important for all your social presence to have all of your information and for it to be consistent across channels. And so yeah, when I'm talking about these platforms, I want to kind of break it out in three different ways. Your appearance or aesthetic, right? The approach.
History. Let's show you history.
And then
Where's
also
history?
the way that you engage with users on the platform and with the platform itself. So for Facebook, the appearance or aesthetic, that's very simple. It's exactly how you want your band to be represented. I like to refer to Facebook for bands as your like kind of like let's call it like your personality project, because it's a two-way engagement platform where people are going to be able to comment on things you post, and you can create dialogue with your audience, and so you want to ensure that with your photos and the way that you describe your band, everything is consistent with your voice and how you want to be represented. In terms of like an approach for posting on Facebook, consistency is key. I don't know if many people know about this, but you've probably noticed it from just using Facebook on your own. But there's an algorithm that controls what is seen in your newsfeed, and it's based off of your actions on Facebook. So the more you engage with another person, the more often you see their posting, and vice versa. But also, the less you engage with somebody, the less they come up in your newsfeed. So this can be kind of detrimental to pages, because basically the statistics show that you only reach about 20% of your audience on Facebook, and those are your core users, right? Those are people who are going to be engaged. But it's really terrible for a band because you may have 500 likes or people who have said that they like this band and they want to see that information. But unless they consistently engage with your page, they're not going to see it. And so it's important to be able to post often and consistent messaging, but also to create that engagement with your audience so that they can continue to see your posting. And so that's like really important, in terms of your posting and your, interacting with people on the page, to keep in mind that, only a core 20% of your audience can see your posting unless you consistently engage with those people. And so there's a lot of cheesy things people do on social media, like Throwback Thursday and stuff like that. And you don't necessarily have to go as far as to do things like that, especially if it's not, consistent with your brand. but being able to post the same types of information at the same times is important, and having that type of consistency really helps to drive engagement. And so I suggest doing stuff that's similar to that. Like if you're going to do like a throwback post or something like that, do it on the same day every time, and do it with the same type of media, if you will. And so yeah, that's important. Another thing is the type of information that you post on Facebook is sorted with that same algorithm. So if you're posting a photo, that comes up more often in a newsfeed than if you're just posting a link or something like that. Videos is perhaps second. So you can be strategic in the types of information you post, and then the way that you post that information in order to get the most engagement possible. So yeah, with approach to Facebook posting, it's important to consider the newsfeed algorithm and try to leverage it to your best advantage. And then last is engagement on Facebook, and obviously I just talked a little bit about engagement, but it's really important because Facebook is a two-way street to ensure that you're answering questions or messages that people send to your band page, or responding to comments and showing that you're engaged, because I think that's really important to people on Facebook, and so that's important. I also really like to use Facebook in order to engage with other artists. It's just a good way to connect with people who are in other states, or you haven't made like a personal connection with yet. But that's kind of more what I want to talk about with SoundCloud. So I'll move on to SoundCloud actually. So I talked about Facebook being your personality project. SoundCloud is your taste project. And what's important with SoundCloud is, a lot of people use the platform, and it's a good platform for, having your music available for free stream, having a profile, that sort of thing. But the most important thing about SoundCloud is to use it as a fan or as a listener. So it's important to create relationships with other people on SoundCloud because it's, like a social engagement type of platform. And so I think, oftentimes I see bands or acts who have all of their music available and who, perhaps have some following of sorts, but they don't use the platform themselves. And so they're not consistently engaged with other people's music, or, liking it or reposting it or whatever. And as a result, they don't see that same type of engagement. And so that's something that I've focused on a lot, is finding pockets and communities, and trying to connect with those people. So that's one of the more important pieces on SoundCloud, is to be able to use it as a fan just as much as an artist. It benefits, both of them benefit each other. But it's a really great platform for networking, we have like a really unique opportunity right now that nobody else had. This opportunity has been available for the last couple of years, but basically what I'm saying is everybody here who plays in bands seems to have a niche focus, right? You have a very specific genre of music, and sometimes it's hard to get that across in a small but burgeoning scene like Denver. But what's really good about the internet is that you're able to find those niche pockets for your music and that audience, and geography doesn't matter. And so platforms like SoundCloud are really great if you're trying to push a very specific brand of music, and then try to find a community or culture around that. And so that's perhaps the most important thing about leveraging like a social presence online, is finding those people who would connect with your brand or your product. They don't necessarily have to be in Denver or have to be people who are already your friends. And so, yeah, it's important to create that community. In terms of approach and like posting consistency, I see a lot of people post often on SoundCloud, and it's a good platform for work in progress and getting feedback from a community, but it's also not your final product in many ways. So it's important to use that as a good feedback tool and to build that community through that. Because, well, the way that I've typically done it is Bandcamp is like my final project with album artwork, you know, a full sort of a thing there.
Folks are friendly.
But yeah, so you know, those are just like kind of my main bullet points about those two platforms.